Yeah, and that was as one-sided an affair as possible. Obviously, we had that awkward moment earlier where bishop d4 was possible, but even without it, black never got out of trouble, and ultimately Prague, what a dominant victory there. That definitely puts the experienced veteran Fabiano Caruana on notice here.
Yeah, and I just want to say it also is a bit of a nod to the time management, because that's the type of thing that if clocks were reversed, you're not finding knight h5. There's just no time. But he had 2 minutes. He paused. He knew there could be something, and what a great spot, as you know, maybe that lit a fire in Fabiano, who's now played rook b1 and h4, and you know what on earth is he up to on the king side here?
I was gonna say this is the anti-chess you would teach a beginner player. You would say things like, "Hey, get your king safe. Don't play on both sides of the board because where's this guy going to end up in the end?" Obviously, these guys are dealing with a different level of firepower when it comes to computer prep and things. But make no mistake, even if Fabi is playing a weird line, if he does get in trouble, it'll still be because of classic principles, because this king has nowhere to go. There's going to be a weird game here where both sides of the board are open, and maybe that's why he tries to get the queens off, but the computer thinks it's awful. Oh my God, 95.
95 is crazy, and it's somehow reminiscent of the previous tactic in a way. You know, of course,
Yeah.
completely different, but at the same time, Prague is kind of pausing here. Now, look, the other thing though that would almost make me pause for a moment is queen f3 is an incredibly strange move, because you just played h4. Like, even queen f3 and just taking it is odd. I don't think that that's how Fabi's supposed to play this. So I think Prague is pausing because queen f3 is a very strange reaction after h4.
Yeah. Yeah. And okay. And he gets away with it. Prague misses 95. He kind of smelt something was odd, but doesn't ultimately find the knockout blow. And it just shows
Fabi
Fabi's a
actually
little.
saw it. His face was like,
Yes,
I
yes.
got away with one.
Yeah. He got away with one there. I don't know that we're going to see a repeat of rook b1 h4, everybody. I think Fabi might just be happy if he gets away with even a draw in this game, given what could have been already.
Yeah, agree. But the thing is, the other reason you're not hunting for a move like knight e5 as Prague is you're playing with the black pieces. h4 has just been played, huge attack imminent, and then queen f3. So you're just he just sees a perfectly fine way to equalize. He's played it. I mean, he's got a great position. If that tactic didn't exist, we'd be looking at this and saying, well, Fabi's got nothing out of the opening. He launched an attack, traded queens a move later. You know, this is kind of a failure in the opening. So Prague has got to be happy.
You're totally right. If you snapped your fingers and just looked at this position, you'd say Prague got the best of the opening. Of course, we know there was a blunder earlier. Still, though, Prague is doing great. He's already up a game in the match. By the way, look at the clock. Up again a little bit on time. Not significant, but still. So far, the younger, less SCC experienced player of the two from India, Praggnanandhaa, he's been the better player so far through 3 games.
Yeah, early stages and very combative games as well. We've just seen misses, and honestly, very high level misses. These aren't like basic moves that these top players are missing. These are engine spots that even after you've told me, Danny, hey, this is what the engine says, I'm still struggling to justify and explain why that's the case.
Yep. All right, well, Fabi trying to justify his h4 move again, despite the queens being off the board. He's expanding a little bit on the king side. Maybe he wants to play g5. The one thing we'll say, okay, he's giving up the pawn, but doesn't he have bishop e4, bishop b4? That's what I was. Bishop f4. That's what I was. Oh,
yep.
Oh my gosh, he did have that, and Prague sacks the exchange.
Yep, a must do. If you're going to play knight d4, then this must be the intention. I think the position here is not even one I can call that easily, because I'm looking at bishop b2 and rook to g1. And the last move there, so underrated. h5 prevents black from playing h5, which would completely kill the g file altogether. So that move is incredibly important by Fabi, who actually seemed to have spotted this sacrifice because he responded instantly. So that h5 move is keeping this game in the balance, and bishop b2, rook g1 is a huge idea.
But I wonder if Prague is now regretting it. Maybe he missed h5 because now he's down on the clock for the first time in the game. Maybe the match, by the way, if you're just tuning in. And I was about to highlight that the one thing White had going for him was the bishop pair with this idea, and I couldn't even finish that thought because we went to the exchange sack. I think I think Prague is regretting a little bit of this. To your point, the long diagonal in the G file is going to be super irritating to deal with, given that you cannot cement that bishop and protect the G pawn. So advantage Fabi right now. We'll see if he can level the match.
Yeah, Danny, if you want to take the move h5 back and just play the move rook
Sure.
hg1, just to
Yeah,
visually show, because this is about to get real ugly. Takes rook g1, h5, bishop b2, and then knight g6, for example. We're looking at a completely different position. The h pawn needs attention. Black's going to play rook d8, rook e8. It's such a different game than what we're seeing on the live board. And Fabi had that h5 move ready. So just those little moves, it's like these guys can calculate everything, find the exchange sack, but missing something so small like h5 really tilts the position.
Yeah, well said. Completely different position now. The fact that Black has 2 pawns for the exchange, the math is equal, right, in terms of 5 points, but the position is not, because White is playing with the threats that Black cannot stop, given to what you said. The bishop will have to move. Black is probably going to try to do something nutty here, if I had to guess, which I think is maybe the right idea, because if the position opens up, counterplay starts to happen against Fabi's king, but again, I'm too lazy to calculate, so I'm just giving the practical advice of what I would do as Black and not let White just dominate the G file. Okay, he takes my practical advice. We'll see if it's a good thing. He has to do something here.
Yeah, there was not really, because if you play f6, White is just going to eventually play e5. That's not going to be a stable blocking of the diagonal. So things were going to open up no matter what, Danny. There was no way for Prague, which means that just because of that h5 move, I'm feeling like Fabi is turning this game into something good.
Yeah. It's funny. Now the computer says that was a miss. Should have played more forcing stuff. Fabi loves this idea, but Prague finds the only move. It's a fork threat on d2, and Black is maintaining the balance at least as best he can right now.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think about rook c7 anyway. Like, if you allow rook d2, rook takes b2, but you take on e7, I'm thinking that there might be an idea to bring maybe the rook on h1 into the game, rook c1, rook c7, double rooks on the 7th, even at the cost of almost all of our pawns, Danny.
I'm with you. Fabi is probably calculating something like that right now, peeking at the clock. It's about a 40-second time advantage. Fabi prevents king d2 instead. Computer actually likes it. Probably the best move there. Rook c7 is back on the menu. You got to watch. Oh, Fabi has a trick. Rook c7 would have allowed a fork, but he has rook to g1, and the problems on g7 are back on the board.
Yeah, and this is a one mover. You can try rook d3 here, hoping for king takes e4, bishop f5. But to be honest, first of all, that might not be enough, but g7 is still a problem. So I don't know what to recommend.
I highlighted king f4. Fabi plays it. The pieces are overworked here. Maybe even rook to c7, by the way. I don't know if the sack is possible, but
do
it's
it.
looking tasty.
Do it. There's no other move that really increases the pressure from what I can see.
Yeah.
Rook c7, rook g8.
You do your tactics, boys and girls. We have a windmill on the board threatened. If you take on g7, White is going to get every check you could ever imagine on the Black king here and just start winning major materials. So rook to c7 is threatening. Okay, this is a nice move because now when the knight takes, you have a check on f4.
King takes e4, a brave and strange move, but it gets out of everything. And why not? Take it and run away.
Yeah, get the king out of dodge, maybe even to d3 now, and eventually tuck it to bed over here. Okay, he goes back to f4. What's his plan next? Maybe he'll just rinse and repeat, but I actually think the safest was to run the king to the queen side and tuck it to bed over there on b1. But, okay, I think Fabi will go for it the second time around.
Yeah, you can play king d3. You can also play probably even king d5, king c6.
Yeah.
I think almost anything is good enough here, but there's something that feels safer to both of us, Danny, about going backwards, familiar territory.
Yep. Well, now Black will have to play rook to g8. Probably Fabi takes on a7 first. Okay, eventually the rook will have to go to g8 is my point. You will run out of checks, and you will have to defend the pawn. Prague.
And look at the pieces. The bishop on h3 is completely stuck because the knight on f5 is stuck. And if the rook goes to g8, it's going to be stuck. You can't move anything.
Yeah, this is wild. I've never seen so many pieces on the board in a small area where they are this confined. This is torture. Okay, the king goes to c1. By the way, he's just avoiding a check by the knight for good measure. I don't
Yep.
even know that you had to do that, but Fabi
Well, he might have been
patiently.
concerned about bishop g4, just a weird move to
Ah,
activate a piece and take on h5 with knight e3 check. So he's saying, look, you can't move a single thing. I'm going to make sure that's actually true.
what a find by Amon Hamilton, everybody. Always anticipate threats. If the king was here, bishop g4, that's a knight fork on e3. I'm not going to go back and show it. Use your visualization skills if you have them, but now you can play rook g6 at some point. Okay, you
Yep.
don't want to let the bishop out. So you're just, if you're Fabi, you're just trying to be surgical about this because every single black piece is stuck.
Yep. I think you want to bring your king to b4. And as long as you go a3, b4, c5, b6, I'm not seeing any sneaky checks. And then you can even tuck the bishop on e5 back to b2, so it's out of the way.
What a fun position. Can we just snapshot this, everybody? If this is the level of chess we're going to have from the rest of the day, Pragg is living on the increment. Fabi is just working it with no diggity on the queen side. He's going to get the king to a6. What a very instructive and clean finish here from Caruana. By the way, checkmate is threatened. Rook g8 and the other rook to g7.
Yep. Which means we might need to see rook e8 or just resin